I am Lesley Nicol. I'm playing Mrs. Patmore. She's the cook. And she is quite fearsome, I think. She rules with a rod of iron. But she's not all bad, is she?
Say no.
I don't think so. She's got another side to her. But because of the kind of politics of downstairs, you've got Mr. Carson, the butler, you've got Mrs. Hughes, the housekeeper, and you've got me. And I think I rule my kitchen, and that's it. But there's a little bit of a power struggle elsewhere.
I'm Sophie McShera and I'm playing Daisy. I'm the scullery maid and Mrs. Patmore is in charge of me. Everyone's in charge of me, basically. I'm the lowest you can get. On the first day at rehearsals, they lined us up in order of our status and I was right at the bottom. So that basically describes my character.
Well, it's a fantastic kitchen for a start. They've built the most amazing thing you've ever seen, and everybody wants it to live in, really, don't they?
Yes.
I mean, the table is about 10 feet long, and it's always got, many people at it chopping, and I've got lots of staff, lots of maids and kitchen boys, and it's usually just manic, absolutely manic, because these people never stopped eating. They had their breakfast, then they had their luncheon, then they had tea, then they had a 5-6 course dinner, then they had sandwiches. I mean, beggars belief. So they never stop all day, do they? And you have to do...
It's just constant, isn't it? Preparing stuff.
Yeah, she has to work, get fires going, haven't you, to begin with and all that.
Yeah, I'm the first one in the house that gets up, and I wake all the other servants up. So I have all the worst jobs, and I have to do everyone's fires and do all the rooms before they wake up. So I sneak into their rooms when they're asleep, the upstairs people, and do their fires.
And you're dead if you wake them.
And I found that so weird when I found out that someone had to do that, sneak in.
Yeah.
And then I have all my duties with Mrs. P. Or we all call...
Yeah, I've got a nickname.
We all call Mrs. Patmore Mrs. P.
Which means they love me, really.
I don't know why, or sometimes she gets called the boss.
The boss.
But Mrs. P, everyone calls her Mrs. P. And nobody does that with anyone else.
No.
Just Mrs. P.
And the thing is, Alistair, who's the historical advisor, explained it to us, didn't he? He said it's this whole thing of downstairs is like a show. You're putting on a show. And it was like a matter of major pride that our show was top, the best, that everything went without a problem, a hitch. So if she makes a mistake, she gets it big time. And same with everybody else. I mean, the stakes are really high because this is our house. We want it to be the best, and anybody who comes to visit, we want it to be the best service, the best food. So it's really majorly important that nobody messes up.
Yeah, that's why you're always so stressed.
Yes, exactly. Yes. He's amazing because he really does know how it worked, and he's really keen to avoid like cliches that you've seen before on these kind of things. He wants it to be exactly as it was. And the way he's made it work for us is he's explained just that. What's important to us, what would happen if you get it wrong. Just silly things like, he said, I'm not having people going around curtsying and bobbing and all this, because they all knew each other very well, and if a servant had to go in and put a log on the fire, they wouldn't knock, they'd just be expected to come. They'd go in, they wouldn't interrupt, they'd do their job and leave, because that's how everybody knew how it was working, So there wasn't time for oh my lady, it wasn't like that. And he's been amazing, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's almost like he was there. He can't have been, but it is. He really, really does. He's fantastic. You can ask him anything.
I said that to him. I said, how do you know all this? But he's just got one of those brains for detail. Yeah. He knows everything. And he's always there, so you can always say, oh, would I be doing this? Or what can I be doing now? I need something to do with my hands. Or because my character can never just be sat. Because there's the place where the servants sort of relax. I'm never relaxing, really. I don't think I would have been allowed. I was always busy. So he always gives me little jobs that I would be doing. He's so good to have him there. Yeah. It's weird, like, how much stuff I have to carry, and all this stuff that I do is so physical. And I just don't understand how anyone did it, like a young girl. Because I'm carrying all this stuff to do the fires for 5 minutes, and then they say cut, and then I put it all down. Yeah, and my hands have got all these marks on them. Everything's so heavy, and everything we pick up is a million times heavier
Oh God,
than...
yeah. The pans.
Yeah.
Have you picked the pans
Yeah,
up?
and like the thing that you pour the water out of, it's just...
Everything is 14 times heavier than anything you've ever lifted, and that's without anything in it.
Yeah,
Mind you, they're very good, aren't they? Because they put things in and have it smoking and looks like proper food. That's the other thing I like.
Yeah, all the
They make
food.
it look, you know, that the cooker is hot, and you know it all is working, and everything is.
Everything's working and all the food looks amazing.
The food is unbelievable, isn't it?
But apparently we're not supposed to eat it. I didn't
No,
know
no,
it.
you're not. No.
I had a little bit.
I said they spray it. They spray it.
I didn't know
You're
they
going to
sprayed
die. Leave it.
And we were doing this big feast and it was pretty amazing stuff. And there was like this
Just
carrot
dipping her
cake.
finger in.
I didn't know. I had a little
And
bit.
it's sprayed with some poisonous.
I didn't die. I'm fine.
We only sit on our own in the kitchen. We eat as a little gang in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We don't sit in the servants' hall. But that's not for no other reason than it's timing. You know, it's like, right, we can do this. We've got this much time. We haven't got time to go and sit with the others. You know, it's like a military operation. We haven't... well, so far there hasn't been a lot of that in evidence, but I think, yes, I do. I think, my theory is, she started a bit like Daisy. I think she's been here forever, and she's worked her way up because, you know, these women didn't go to cookery school. They had to learn as they went along. And so I think it's her mission, again, because it matters that people are really good at their job, to keep her in order. But I think she secretly is very fond of her, really.
It's like a mother-daughter. She's maternal.
Yeah.
Because I do tell her all my secrets. I tell her. Even though she's really awful to me, she's still you're my only confidant, really.
Exactly, like it or lump it, we'd spend every day, all day together.
Yeah.
So there's got to be more than just shouting at her, I think.
Yeah. Well, loads of stuff, really. I mean, my character is she does get stuff wrong, but which is really hard to play. But yeah, he taught just really basic stuff. Like, I had to be like, I don't know how to do a fire. He had to teach me how to lay the fire because I had to do all the fires in this house on my first day. And I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that was scary, wasn't it?
So he just teaches you things like that. And I laid my fire and then walked off in the shop. And he said to me, no, you have to put all that stuff away now and take it away. I was like, oh yeah, I just left it all. Like, it's really stupid, like things that you don't think of.
But it's details, and thank God he's there,
He's
really.
so
because,
clever.
you know, you need to look like you've done it before loads of times without thinking.
Yeah, and he gives you that confidence that you know he would tell you if you're doing it wrong.
I mean, I think they must have formed close friendships between themselves because, you know, the women weren't married usually. I mean, I'm Mrs. Patmore, Phyllis is Mrs. Hughes, but we probably weren't married because you weren't allowed. So you'd have to have, I mean, they often had relatives that lived out, and I think I've got a sister, or a sister died or something. But otherwise, you've got who's in the house, really, and I hope they were able to... Well, it's potluck, really, isn't it? It depends where you end up, who you end up with.
It's sort of become like a family.
Like a family, yeah.
We always want to know
Absolutely.
what's going on upstairs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, that's like our telly.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
it's like our soap.
But
I know, and what's lovely is we all have an opinion about it as well. There's none of this, we're subservient little quiet people. We're not at all. We all think we're quite important, and we all got an opinion. And I mean, we keep it to ourselves, but that's the way it was, it seems. And also, another thing Alistair said was, in the world, we were quite high up in our class, you know, to get a job in a big house like this and to have this position. Even you, to have a job in the house with prospects, would be a big deal, because what else were you going to be? You might be in the fields, you might be in a factory if you're lucky. Whereas this had the future, you know, so we had a bit of status in our little world.
I think I need to leave the house to find my status.
Yeah, no, you
Because
stay
I've not
here
got
with
it
me.
in the house. But I think if I went out into the village or whatever, I would be probably above another
That
girl
girl's
my
got a
age.
good job, yeah.
The weird thing is, sometimes, I often get I get my hands painted all red, and sometimes I get all dirt put on, not dirt, but black put under all my nails so I look dirty. Get my hair all greased up, and I get black put on my face if I've been doing the fires. So that's really weird, because the other week I just got on the train. I got dropped straight at the train. I just got changed. I sat on the train like next to this woman, and I thought she was looking at me in disgust. And I looked, and I just looked disgusting, like I hadn't had a bath for about a month. And I really wanted to go, I'm actually making a period trauma at the moment. But I thought, no, I can't say that. So I just had to just hide my hands.
I know, and I've got burns all over because Mrs. Patmore, well, obviously has a lot of burns.
And they look so good.
Looks like I've been self-harming.
Especially when you stand there with that knife in the kitchen. She really looks really fierce.
Well, I think in a funny way, there's less problem with Mr. Carson than there is with Mrs. Hughes, because I think she respects Mr. Carson, and he doesn't really get in her way. He has his own duties, and he doesn't really stamp on her territory, whereas Mrs. Hughes, another woman of possibly a similar age, I think they probably have some kind of relationship, some affection for each other, but also there's major clashing going on, and this is one of the main things Mrs. Patmore can't stand, and this is a fact, this was how it was, is that she's head of the kitchen, and that's it. Everybody knows that. They would all defer to that. But if she wants anything from the store cupboard, she has to ask Mrs. Hughes for the key. And this drives her crackers, absolutely crackers, because it's just, she doesn't see the point of that. It makes no sense. It drives her insane. But it is the way it was. That apparently, Alistair says that is how it was. So I think there's more likelihood that they do have punch-ups from time to time. And they're two strong women, and I think Mr. Carson's a different ball game, really.
Alistair always says he's God. He's God to us, isn't he, Mr. Carson? When he walks in.
Sort of God, yeah.
But it's like, he's probably not as scary to me as Mrs. P, because she's sort of my direct boss.
And he doesn't shout at you,
and
does
he doesn't really shout at me.
No.
He just sort of ignores me. But he is scary, and he has this authority, but he's not. To me, my boss is Mrs. Patmore, so that's who I answer to. And Mrs. Hughes scares me. She can be in charge of me as well. She gets me when I'm doing the fires sometimes. Yeah. But he doesn't have much to do with me. He looks after the men, the footmen. So I'm all right. You try and sort of learn things and watch everyone all the time. I just feel really lucky because there's about 1 million amazing actors to soak stuff up from and watch. And if I can, I run round to the monitors and try and watch things on the monitors and then run back. I just love it. And it's amazing getting to work with everyone. It's really cool. I feel so lucky. I think it was when I saw the list, I was like, oh my God. I think it was Dame Maggie Smith at the top, and my name was right at the bottom. But I like to think we were bookends on the cast list.
It feels like a perfect cast. It just, we all read it, and then you think, oh, well, who's going to play that? And when I heard, for instance, that Jim was going to play Mr. Carson, I seriously couldn't think of anybody that would be more right than that. I mean, I didn't know Jim, but I've seen him in 100 things, and I just thought, that is perfect. I didn't know Mrs. Scrap here, but I'd already been told she was rather good. So I was quite pleased when I met her.
And I was pleased when I met Leslie.